Hi everyone, welcome to the 7th video of the distance learning program. I hope you all are doing great and it's great to be with you again. The focus of today's lesson is using the words enough and to with adjectives. And I hope you remember that adjectives are words that are used to describe a noun. So that's an adjective, like the small boy. Small would be an adjective that describes boy, or the intelligent young lady would be intelligent would be an adjective. So remember, we're going to be using the words enough with adjectives and to with adjectives. Now I'm going to draw a picture on the board, so I'm going to cut away for just a second. Okay, now I've drawn a picture on the board, and I hope you don't laugh too much because I'm not really a great artist, but hopefully you'll be able to understand the lesson as I explain it to you, okay? Now, I have a picture of a family here. We have a mother and a father, and we have 2 children. So this is a family. And we have 3 houses. And the family is looking to buy a house, and they're trying to decide which house is right for them. So let's take a look at the first house. This first house has 1 bedroom, and the second house has 2 bedrooms. And this house, the third house down here, is really big. It has 10 bedrooms. So the family is trying to decide which house is right for them. Well, let's look at house number 1. How many bedrooms? 1. How many children? We have 2 children and then the parents. So you would say that this house is too small, or it isn't big enough. It isn't big enough. Let's look at house number 2. House number 2 has 2 bedrooms. We have a family with 2 children. So this house is big enough. It is big enough. Now let's look at house number 3. How many children? 2. How many bedrooms? 10. This house is too big. This house is too big. So let me ask you a couple of questions now. Does 2 mean more than the right amount or less than the right amount? It means more than the right amount. This house is too big. It has more bedrooms than what this family needs, so it's more than the right amount. Does enough mean the right amount or more than the right amount? Remember, this house number 2 was big enough. So that means it has the right amount. So hopefully you'll be able to understand this lesson from this picture right here. So what we're going to do now is turn to page 36 in the Ventures3 book. So please turn to page 36 in this book, and we're going to look at lesson C, adverbs of degree. Adverbs of degree. The grammar focus using to and enough. I'm going to read what's in the orange box right here. It says, use to plus adjective to talk about more than the right amount. The meaning is negative. Use adjective plus enough to talk about the right amount of something. Use not plus an adjective plus enough to talk about less than the right amount of something. So when I say this is not big enough, this house is not big enough, it has less than the right amount of bedrooms. The meaning is negative. So here are some examples of to plus an adjective. The ceiling is too high. Remember, Anna could not reach the smoke alarm because the ceiling was too high. it's too high to reach. If the ceiling is 10 feet tall and I'm only 6 feet tall, the ceiling is too high. I can't reach the ceiling. Then here we have adjective plus enough. The ladder is tall enough. Remember, enough follows the adjective tall. You don't say the ladder is enough tall. You say the ladder is tall enough. Secondly, it says it's tall enough to reach the ceiling. When they say it's, they're talking about the ladder. The ladder is tall enough to reach the ceiling. If you stand on top of the ladder, you would be able to reach the ceiling. Then it says not plus adjective plus enough. The woman is not tall enough. That means that's negative. She is not tall enough to reach the ceiling. So that means that she is not able to reach the ceiling because she is not tall enough. Here are some adjectives in the bottom left orange box. I'll read those to you. Big, close, expensive, experienced, far, and high. And then this orange box says, use the shorter sentence when the listener knows what you're talking about. Example, the ladder is tall enough. Now we're going to move to part 2, the practice exercise. It says, write, complete the sentences, use to or enough. Too far to visit. My neighbors, the Mansours, have 4 children. Their house isn't big enough. Mr. and Mrs. Mansour think it's too expensive to live in the city. Their rent is too high. Last weekend, the Mansours bought a house outside the city. It has 4 bedrooms. It's big enough for the whole family. However, the new house is too far from Mr. Mansour's job. So he's going to look for a new job. Mr. Mansour is an experienced engineer. He's experienced enough to find a new job. I will miss the Mansours. I probably can't visit them. Their new house isn't close enough for me to visit. It's too expensive to take a taxi there. When I'm rich enough to buy a car, I will visit them. All right. Now that we did that, we can turn to page 37 and look at exercise B. It says work with a partner, talk about the pictures, use to, enough, and not enough. So if you look at this first picture, you see the 2 people wearing coats and a swimming pool. And it says, can they swim today? I don't think so. It's too cold to swim today. Yeah, you're right. It really isn't warm enough. And then if you look at picture number 2, this man is sitting right on the beach, and it looks like a hot sunny day. But here it says, can she swim today? And the answer is yes, it's hot enough to swim. Maybe that's a woman. I don't know. How about looking at picture 3? It says young, drive, and old. So what would be the question that you would ask about this boy? You would say, can this boy drive? And the answer would be, I don't think so. He's too young to drive. And the answer would be, yeah, you're right. He isn't really old enough. He isn't really old enough. Over here, you can see that this young lady is turning 16. She has a birthday card. It says, "Happy 16th birthday." Can she drive? You would say, yes, she's old enough to drive. She's old enough to drive. Now look at picture number 5. The man looks like he's having a difficult time lifting the TV. So the question is, can he lift the TV? The answer would be, I don't think so. He's too weak to lift the TV. The answer part A would be, yeah, you're right. He isn't strong enough. He isn't strong enough. And picture number 6 shows these two people. They are lifting the TV. So if you said, can they lift the TV? You would say, yes, they're strong enough to lift the TV. They're strong enough to lift the TV. Then, picture 7. This picture shows a young lady trying to reach the books on the bookshelf. So the question would be, can she reach the books? And the answer, we want to use the word short. You would say, I don't think so. She's too short to reach the books. Or you could say, yeah, you're right. She isn't really tall enough. Then over here, picture 8, this girl is tall enough to reach the books. You can see that she's reaching the books. So the question would be, can she reach the books? And the answer would be, yeah, she's tall enough to reach the books. All right. Now down here, the blue box in the bottom right corner of the page, it says useful language. I agree means my opinion is the same as yours. I disagree or I don't agree means my opinion is different from yours. So in section 3, it says, I'm too young to get married. And the answer over here is, I agree. Young people should wait to get married. So when you agree, that means you have the same opinion. Now we're getting ready to start the reading on part D on page 38. It says, before you read, look at the title and the picture. Answer the questions. And the title says, Neighborhood Watch Success Story. Here are the questions. Have you ever heard of Neighborhood Watch? What is it? And is there a neighborhood watch in your area? The note here in the top right corner says the first sentence of a paragraph usually tells the main idea. The other sentences give details. Facts and examples are types of details. Okay, I've just written the word neighbors on the board. You'll probably remember that in one of the previous lessons I talked about neighborhood and what a neighborhood was. Remember, neighborhood means the community that you live in, the streets that are very close to where your house is located. Well, what are neighbors? Neighbors are the people that live in your neighborhood. Those are the people. So the people that live on your street are your neighbors. Now, I have a couple of questions for you. Please think about the answers to these questions. Do you know your neighbors well? Did you know your neighbors well in your country? How are neighbors in your country different from neighbors here? The book says neighbors can get your mail for you when you are away. They can lend you something you need. Now, if you'll turn to page 38, we're going to read the Neighborhood Watch success story, and I'll ask you a few questions about it. Please follow along with me. People often ask me about the role of Neighborhood Watch. My answer is because of Neighborhood Watch, our neighborhood is safer and nicer. Members of Neighborhood Watch help each other and look after the neighborhood. For example, we look after our neighbors' houses when they aren't home. We help elderly neighbors with yard work. Once a month, we get together to paint over graffiti. Graffiti is what we sometimes find on walls of abandoned buildings. Sometimes people paint either pictures or sometimes words on walls, and that's called graffiti. Or sometimes it's painted on the supports for bridges. Sometimes you'll see paintings or artwork or words that are written on the supports for bridges or on old abandoned trains. So that's called graffiti. Last Wednesday, the Neighborhood Watch team had another success story. Around 8:30, members of our Neighborhood Watch were out on a walk. Near the corner cafe, they noticed two men next to George Garcia's car. George lives on Rolling Hills Drive. The men were trying to break into the car. Suddenly, the car alarm went off. The men ran away and got into a car down the street. But they weren't quick enough. Our Neighborhood Watch members wrote down the car's license plate number and called the police. Later that night, the police arrested the two men. I would like to congratulate our Neighborhood Watch team on their good work. Because so many people participate in Neighborhood Watch, Rolling Hills is a safer neighborhood today. For information about Neighborhood Watch, please call 773-555-1234. So you can see that Neighborhood Watch is a program that helps to keep the neighborhood safe. So sometimes, even if you don't understand what the meaning of a word is, you can determine or understand what the word means by reading the article or the rest of the paragraph. Now, if you look on page 39, where it says check your understanding in part 3, it says what is the main idea of the first paragraph? Well, if you look at the beginning of the paragraph, it says people often ask me about the role of Neighborhood Watch. So this article is about the Neighborhood Watch program. What is the role of the Neighborhood Watch? So the main idea of the first paragraph is the role of the Neighborhood Watch. Number 2 says, what are 3 examples of the role of Neighborhood Watch? Now, let's take a look and see if we can find out what the three examples are. If you look near the bottom of the first paragraph, it says, for example, we look after our neighbors' houses when they aren't home. So that's one example of a role of the Neighborhood Watch. Then it says, we help elderly neighbors with yard work. That's a second example. And then finally it says, once a month, we get together to paint over graffiti. So that's the third example of the role of Neighborhood Watch. Number 3 says, what did the Neighborhood Watch team see? If you look at the bottom of the first column, it says, Near the corner cafe, they noticed two men next to George Garcia's car. And then it says the men were trying to break into the car. So the answer would be they saw two men trying to break into George Garcia's car. Then it says, what did they do? It says the neighborhood watch members wrote down the car's license plate number and called the police. So they wrote down the car's license plate number and they called the police. Then, number 4, in the third paragraph, what word means the same as tell someone they did a good job? Well, in the fourth paragraph, it says, I would like to congratulate our neighborhood watch team for their good work. So that means that congratulate is the word that they're looking for. That's the word that means the same as to tell someone that they did a good job. Congratulate. And finally, 5, according to the author, why is Rolling Hills a safer neighborhood today? Well, if you look in the last paragraph, it says, because so many people participate in Neighborhood Watch, Rolling Hills is a safer neighborhood today. So remember, the words that follow because tell the reason, or they give an explanation for something. So the reason why Rolling Hills is a safer neighborhood today is because so many people participate in Neighborhood Watch. So thank you very much for watching this video, and I hope you're enjoying them, and I can't wait to make another video for you, and I hope you'll watch that too. Have a great evening. Bye-bye.